It's International Women's Day, and this year's theme is Embrace Equity. As a female-led company, this is a great opportunity to sit down and have an open and honest conversation about the challenges we as women go through and the changes we hope to see. Let's start today off and think what are the biggest challenges women face today. What are everyone's thoughts?
I think definitely a major one. And it's because it's probably most recent and has only kind of feels like we've really backtracked in the overturn of Roe versus Wade. I just think, the fact that people are still being able to dictate over women's bodies and the choices that they have with them is so backwards. And it almost undoes a lot of the work that, women before us did.
We were working so hard to achieve equality, and now it feels like you have to choose between having a family or your career, when before it was like, I feel like we were getting to a stage where you were able to have both, but now it's...
We're basically going back to the 50s.
Right. I feel like we're reaching a stage again where it's like, you're getting somewhere in your career, and then it's like, oh, actually, I want to have my family. Then you come back and it's like you've taken a step back, and it's like, well, why am I not able to achieve the same as my male counterparts? Why am I, because I've chosen to have a family, it's like I've done a bad thing, which is so wrong.
Even if you don't want to have children, it's a bit of an issue. And they try and tell you, no, yes, you do.
Yeah.
You do want to have kids. You're going to change your mind. You're going to grow out of it. So I feel like regardless, there's still a say more on their end than ours.
I also think sometimes, depending on who you're speaking to, probably the older generation, if you say you don't want kids, they're like, well, why not?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe I want to put my career first.
Right. They don't seem to understand that you might not want kids.
Exactly. Yeah. My grandparents would have been like, well, you need to have a family. You're a woman. You need to be a housewife. Well, no, I'm going to be CEO.
Exactly.
Who's going to take care of you when you're old?
And it's also the idea of all of us is as women, if we want children, we kind of have to start thinking about it age 30 because you don't know when the menopause is going to kick in. It could kick in at late 30s.
30s, yeah.
So I've got another question for you guys. How can we celebrate and amplify women's voices?
I think a big thing is champion businesses that put women first. And I mean, look, Bumble is one of our clients, and the whole backstory of Bumble, I think, it's got so much to it.
It's all about women.
It's all about giving women the power back. And I think, especially within a romance sense as well, it's always been men having the dominance over women, because
the man asked
they would be
out.
the bread maker. Would you have to wait for the guy to ask you to dance, back in the 50s? But with this, it's very much, well, no, this is in the women's shoes.
I feel like it's going to have to come from women to women. So I suppose just a lot more support and confidence and trust in women.
Yeah. I actually think where men will be most influenced is by other men, so you need men to help amplify those messages.
So what steps do we think need to be taken in order to achieve gender equality?
Being more conscious about creating spaces for women. I think having a space where you're more conscious about okay, we don't have enough women here, we don't have women representing this business. Thinking about that so that in the future people can look up to amazing women, female leaders. Yeah. For example, the company that we work in, our CEO is a woman, and that's so inspiring because it's you can achieve that, and that's something to look up to and something to aspire to. Yeah. So I think it's important to have spaces within any sort of institution showing that there is a space, a safe space for women to be in. I think that's one of the things, is just to be more conscious about well, if you're looking at your workforce and 90% are men, well, what's the reason?
So if we look obviously at diversity, let's just look at even our own company in MG Empower, we have a huge diversity of people.
I feel super comfortable here. There's a very well balanced space. I feel like everyone's heard, everyone has an opinion, everyone can, jump in and get involved with whatever they want and have as much weight as men, I would think. No, it is. So so yeah, I am proud of the place that we work at.
The previous company I was at was very female heavy. And when I was, applying for here and I was looking at on LinkedIn, you know, you do a little bit of a stalk and you're like, okay, who works there? Who might I like? Don't know. But I was like, oh God, there's actually quite a few guys there. Like, and you do think, oh, am I going to be like, I don't know, am I going to fit in as well? But I have to say, like, it's the community that is here is so supportive, really, really supportive. And I think, you know, the fact that we do have a female CEO and founder and her story is very much like integrated into our kind of, you know, everyday. I think that plays a major part.
This is what MG Empower does so well, is like making you feel seen and feel heard. And it's very rare, you know.
I mean, we probably take it for granted because we're used to it.
Yeah.
But there'll be millions of girls in these companies, let's say with male heads, and they feel like they can't be heard, or in the most junior positions and just stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
So, let me ask you this question. What can men do to support gender equality?
I think the place we can start is maybe creating a space where we can talk about it.
You, in the sense of creating that space where, you know, transparency is kind of key to, you know, have that leveler between, you know, the male and female.
And we need to talk about it more often. It needs to be more of a conversation, an ongoing conversation. The more it's talked about, the more it's drilled into our heads of, you know, we're not equal. There's you know, all these circumstances where there's a big difference between the men and the women. We need to educate, we need to talk about it. The more we do this, the more it will become a norm to solve these issues.
So I'm going to raise another question to everyone. How can we raise awareness of the importance of gender equality through a man's perspective?
I think, you know, see there's a lot of pros and cons to social media, but social media is now a great platform to kind of raise that awareness. Being a man, like, you should definitely use the power of that platform and your voice to kind of educate, you know, their audience, their friends on, you know, on these matters and these issues and how it's affecting them. And it's not even a matter of kind of you posting yourself. You could see an interesting post by one of your colleagues, one of your friends around gender equality. And it's just a matter of sharing that post, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok.
We need to use the voices that we have. And if you have a big following, use it. It's going to reach so many people and it's going to change so many people's thinking.
Not only do we need to talk about it ourselves, but we need to encourage others to talk about it.
What would everyone kind of say the most kind of common gender biases would be? Either you've experienced them or not experienced them or heard or a friend's joked about them?
Oh, like women should be in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, women can't be the head of the household. It has to be the man.
You know, men should earn the money and women should maintain the house or look after the kids or anything like that.
Or it's even like if a woman earns more than the man, then it's like, ooh, ick.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, like that shouldn't be a bad thing.
Right.
But I mean, if I think about like my industry, right, photography and video production, I've probably worked with 3 or 4 women in my industry behind the camera.
As well.
So it's difficult because you haven't had any experience of women in your industry or in certain roles. But saying that, in the few opportunities where I have worked with female photographers and video producers, they've been some of the best I've ever met. Like one of our previous photographers here at MG, she brought a whole load of skills to the table that I've never seen in anyone.
I mean, I work in a team with, I'm the only man on my team, 8 women, and they're all a lot better than me at my job, to be honest. So, obviously, creds to them.
So obviously when we're talking about gender biases, obviously some are both conscious and unconscious, and us as women, they impact us. As a man, how do you see this gender bias? Like what can men do to help overcome this, I guess?
I think it's going back to kind of the points we were talking about earlier around education and just talking about it. Again, it's kind of intertwined with awareness and we're kind of learning off each other. Like I've never had a conversation with you guys around women equality, and it's such a...
Which is crazy.
Yeah, because it's such a huge and hugely important topic, and again, I feel like it's just not really talked about at all in the workplace and also out of work as well.
Yeah.
And I think if we can teach ourselves to recognize it when we see it, and even whether it's in ourselves or in our colleagues. Because as you said, if it's an unconscious bias, you're unaware of what you're doing. So yeah, we need clear examples of conscious and unconscious bias.
So I also have a question for you guys. How can men support women?
Educate other men as well. You know, we need all the support and communication and all the help, but I guess it starts with men. You know, sexism or whatever, it starts with men, not with women. So I would say, be respectful to me, to my face, be respectful to me behind my back.
Exactly, it's like men looking out for women and just being a bit more aware. Like men need to be, I guess, not shy and to stick up for women and
call it out. Like when you see something is wrong, like call it out. Like I think, you know, hearing it from a man, I think maybe it'll be received more from another male as opposed to a female who'll be like, oh my gosh, you're just in your emotions or whatever. But it's like having these conversations within your male friendships, your work, whether it's work colleagues or like your family, I think that is integral in helping to create that equality between women and men.
So I just wanted to say thank you everyone for joining me today. It's been super insightful and I hope it's been like interesting for all of you, and to also for us to discuss this really important topic that I guess needs to be spoken about more. So thank you everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you everyone for listening. We'd love to hear your stories and your views and your comments. So comment below.